Watch this entire video because it could change your life. Have you ever felt like you were walking down a road with no way out? Everything around you is covered in darkness, the storms of life keep pouring down, and you wonder, is there a way for me? But then, at that very moment, a door appears. It stands there, old, covered in the dust of time, as if it has been waiting for you all along. There's nothing particularly special about this door, except for one thing. It isn't locked. A voice rises within your soul. Open it. Trust. There's something incredible about faith. It's just like this door. Sometimes we can't see what lies ahead. We hesitate, we fear. But if we have the courage to step through, we'll discover a different world. A world where blessings don't come from chasing after them, but from fully trusting the one who gives them. And right now, in this very moment, you have a choice. Walk away or keep watching. Because this is not just another video. This is a journey, a door opening to a new world. A world where light drives out darkness, where you no longer have to struggle under the weight of life, where you find true peace. Are you ready to step through? Watch until the end, because what God has prepared for you, you don't want to miss it. The door to another world. The sky was painted in shades of gray, as if someone had taken a giant brush and swept a layer of cold ash across it. Not a single ray of light pierced through the dense clouds, and the wind howled in bursts, carrying with it the dampness that clung stubbornly to every stone along the gravel path. The air felt frozen in time, with only the sound of footsteps echoing against the uneven ground. Each sound a reminder that you were still walking, still moving forward, though where you were headed, even you could not say. There are days like this when everything seems directionless, when the path ahead is nothing more than a hazy stretch of mist, and when the weight of unanswered questions presses heavily upon your heart. And yet, in the very moment of being lost, something appears. Whether it had been there all along or had only just emerged, you couldn't say, but you were certain you had never noticed it before. A weathered wooden door, standing tall in the midst of the empty road. At first glance, there was nothing remarkable about the door. It did not glow, nor was it adorned with intricate carvings, nor did it bear any mysterious symbols to suggest that something extraordinary lay beyond it. It was merely a wooden door, its paint faded, its hinges slightly rusted from time. But there was something peculiar about it. Despite the drizzle and the relentless gusts of wind, not a single drop of water touched the door. It remained inexplicably dry, as though it did not belong to this world. You step closer, curiosity stirring within you. A part of you wants to reach out and grasp the handle, but another part hesitates. There is no guarantee that what lies beyond is something good. It could open into a dark, suffocating chamber, an endless abyss, or worse, a vast and absolute nothingness. Yet just as you begin to turn away, a sound breaks the silence. Not loud, not entirely clear, but enough to make you pause. Open it. Trust. It was not a command, nor was it advice. It was an invitation, gentle, yet heavy with meaning. You touch the door handle. The first sensation is not the coldness of metal, but an unusual warmth, as if someone on the other side is holding your hand through this door. A thin sliver of light seeps through the gap, just enough for you to see that something is waiting. Not emptiness, not darkness, but something far greater than you had imagined. And then you open the door. In that instant, everything around you seems to dissolve. The gravel path, the drizzle, the overcast sky, all fade away as if they had never existed. You step across the threshold and find yourself standing in an entirely different realm. This world is unlike anything you have ever seen. Light fills every space, yet it does not blind. A profound peace blankets the air, yet it is not silent. A gentle breeze stirs, carrying the scent of things unknown. You feel something deep within, a presence you cannot put into words. No one needs to tell you. You know, you have entered a place where blessings are not something to be chased, but something freely given when you trust the one who placed this door before you. And this is the journey you are about to begin. Chapter 1, The Mirror and What We Do Not See. Miracles happen in life, but they rarely arrive in the dazzling form we expect. There are no golden beams of light streaming from the heavens, no ethereal music echoing in the air, and certainly no glowing words announcing, "This is the blessing you have been searching for." Instead, blessings often come in forms we either cannot recognize or do not wish to acknowledge. Imagine an old room where dim light filters through dust-laden windows. In that room stands a boy before a large mirror, his small hand pressing against the cold glass. But this mirror does not reflect him as he is. Instead of a frail boy with eyes full of longing, the reflection shows a steadfast young man, his gaze as calm as the surface of a still lake. The boy frowns. This is not what he wanted to see. He came here with a wish that the mirror would show him an image of himself in a future that was fuller, richer, free from longing and lack. But instead, it reflected something he could not understand, a version of himself he did not recognize. "No, this isn't right," he whispers. "I want to see something else, a better life, more." But the mirror does not change. His fingers curl into a fist, frustration rising within him. Shouldn't a blessing be something more tangible, a gift he could hold, an instant transformation, a miracle he could easily recognize? What the boy does not know is that this mirror holds a secret. It does not show people what they want to see, but what they need to see. And that is what most of us fail to realize. We often view life through a distorted magnifying glass, enlarging what we lack while overlooking what we have already been given. We long for miraculous changes to happen instantly, failing to realize that the true miracles have always been present, in every breath we take, in the quiet peace of an early morning, in the warm embrace of those we cherish. Blessings are not what we demand, they are what we learn to appreciate. When we place God first, when we allow Him to lead instead of striving to seize everything by our own will, the veil over our minds begins to lift. We come to see that the things we once considered small, peace, patience, hope, are, in truth, priceless treasures. There is a story of a man who spent his entire life chasing wealth and success, believing they were the ultimate signs of blessing. He prayed for prosperity, for doors to open effortlessly, but yet nothing ever seemed to come in the way he expected. It was only when he looked back on his life that he realized he had never truly been in need. He had a family, loyal friends, and a home that had sheltered him through every storm. He came to understand that God had never withheld his blessings. He had simply failed to see them for what they were. Blessings do not always arrive in the form we expect, but they always come. The question is whether we are willing to recognize them. And just like the boy before the mirror, one day we will understand that what we see in life matters far less than how we choose to see it. Chapter 2: The Locked Door and the Forgotten Treasure. There stood an ancient castle, perched in solitude atop a desolate hill, where the wind howled through moss-covered stones and stained-glass windows cast eerie light at dawn. Within its towering walls lived a man, alone. No one knew where he had come from, nor why he never left. But there was one thing that all who passed by knew well. He never ceased to complain about a locked door. Day after day, he wandered through the castle's cold corridors, always stopping before that door, knocking lightly on its dark wooden surface as if expecting it to change. He had tried hundreds of keys, had poured his mind and heart into finding a way to open it. Something extraordinary, he was certain, lay beyond it. A treasure, a great secret, or perhaps the answer to all the questions that had tormented him his entire life. But there was one thing he failed to realize. Every day, as he dragged himself through the hallways, scowling at the stubborn door that refused to yield, he completely ignored the other rooms in the castle, the rooms he could enter at any time. Within those rooms lay chests overflowing with jewels, maps leading to unknown lands, books filled with the wisdom of the ages. But he never once looked at them. He never opened a single other door, because in his mind, only one thing mattered: the locked door. And so it is with us. We live in a world full of miracles, yet we fixate only on what we do not have. We may already hold wonders in our hands: a home, someone who loves us unconditionally, a heart that still beats strong within our chest. But instead of being grateful, we spend our days chasing what is missing. But God does not call us to focus on our lack. He does not want us to spend our lives standing before a closed door while the true treasures lie within reach. He calls us to trust Him, like a tree planted by the water, unshaken by drought or storm. But blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord, whose confidence is in Him. They will be like a tree planted by the water that sends out its roots by the stream. It does not fear when heat comes, its leaves are always green. It has no worries in a year of drought and never fails to bear fruit. Jeremiah 17:7-8. A tree growing by the water does not fear scorching heat or drought, for its roots have sunk deep into the source of life. It does not need to reach far and wide in search of sustenance, for everything it needs is already there. But what about us? Do we dare to let go of that locked door? Do we dare to turn around, look around, and recognize the wonders that have already been given to us? Or will we continue to drown in worries, in unanswered questions, in the things we believe we lack, while the most important treasures have been right here all along, waiting for us to simply reach out and receive them? Chapter 3: Lost Paths and Forgotten Treasures. If you ever held a treasure map in your hands, what would you do? Would you strain your eyes to read every detail, carefully following each sign drawn on it? Or would you toss it aside, asking directions from strangers you meet along the way? The answer seems obvious. No one would be foolish enough to discard the only map leading them to treasure. And yet, when it comes to life, many people do exactly that. Once, there was a boy who received such a treasure map. It was an old, worn piece of parchment, its edges frayed, marked with strange symbols that only the patient could decipher. The instructions were clear beyond doubt. Head east until you reach the old oak tree, then turn right and continue until you see the silver stream glistening under the sun. The treasure lay close by. But instead of faithfully following the map, the boy became distracted by the strangers he met on the road. A man in a crimson cloak told him that if he turned left instead of right, he would reach a land overflowing with gold and riches without any effort. A woman adorned with glittering jewels claimed that the treasure didn't exist at all, and he should stay in a nearby village to enjoy the pleasures of the present. Another man, with piercing eyes and a cryptic smile, scoffed at the map, saying it was nothing but a trick. There was no treasure waiting for him. The boy hesitated. He looked down at the map in his hands, then back at the path ahead. It was dark and uncertain, while the road the strangers pointed to was bright and filled with promises. In the end, he chose to believe them. He turned left instead of right. And as you might guess, he never found the treasure. This story may sound absurd. Who would abandon a trustworthy map to follow the words of complete strangers? And yet, how many times do we do the same in life? The Bible is the treasure map that God has given to mankind. It holds all the instructions we need to find true blessings, yet we are so easily swayed by the temptations around us. We know that God's path is the right one, but we are drawn to easier, more glamorous roads. We know that if we follow His word, we will find true peace and joy, but we are captivated by the world's false promises, promises of wealth, power, and fame. But the Bible has warned us long ago, "Blessed is the one who does not walk in step with the wicked, or stand in the way that sinners take, or sit in the company of mockers, but whose delight is in the law of the Lord, and who meditates on his law day and night." Psalm 1, verse 1-2. A wise person stays away from the paths of sin and the deceitful voices of the wicked. If we follow them, we will be led astray, no matter how close our blessings may be. But if we make God's word our guide, if we listen to and follow the instructions in this sacred map, we will find the true treasure, a life filled with blessings, peace, and His divine protection. For that treasure has never been found at the end of a path drawn by men. It can only be discovered when we walk the path of God. Chapter 4: When the Clock Stops Us. There is a legend passed down in a small village nestled deep within rolling green hills, where the morning mist lingers over thatched rooftops and horse-drawn carriages rumble along the worn cobblestone paths. The legend tells of a magical clock set upon an ancient bell tower at the heart of the village. It is said that this clock does more than simply tell time. It possesses a special power. If one believes in it with absolute trust, its hands will continue to move with perfect precision, never faltering by even a single second. But if one doubts, even for the briefest moment, the hands will stop instantly. Many have put the legend to the test. Some approach the bell tower with unwavering faith, gazing up at the clock face and witnessing its flawless operation, each steady tick echoing in harmony with the rhythm of the universe. But there were others, skeptics, who arrived with questioning eyes. They stood before the clock trying to believe, yet carrying within them the tiniest seed of doubt. And the moment that doubt crept into their minds, the hands of the clock stopped, as if sensing that trust had been broken. This tale is more than just a legend about a clock. It is a metaphor for something far greater, a truth about faith and fear. We live in a world where everything around us can lead us to doubt. We fear the future, worry about things that have yet to happen, and question whether we can control anything at all. But what we often forget is that faith and fear cannot coexist. The moment we allow fear to creep in, faith begins to weaken. Just like the hands of the clock on the bell tower, stopping when trust is no longer present. We often think that having faith means knowing exactly how things will unfold, that we will never face hardships, that every path will always be open before us. But that is not the truth. Faith is not certainty about the outcome. It is certainty about the one who holds the outcome. Faith is not knowing what will happen. It is knowing that no matter what happens, God is there. There is a well-known story in the Bible about Peter, one of Jesus' closest disciples. One night, as the disciples were in a boat on the sea, they saw a figure walking on the water. At first, they were terrified, thinking it was a ghost, but then Jesus spoke, "Take courage. It is I. Do not be afraid." Matthew 14, verse 27. Peter, with courage and faith, said, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." And when Jesus told him to step out of the boat, Peter did the unthinkable. He stepped onto the water. In that moment, he walked on the surface of the sea, his eyes fixed on Jesus, his heart filled with faith. But then the strong wind rose, the waves began to crash around him, and fear crept into his heart. In an instant, he started to sink. Panicked, he cried out, "Lord, save me." And immediately, Jesus reached out his hand, caught him, and said, "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" Peter did not sink because Jesus lacked the power to sustain him on the water. He sank because he let fear overshadow his faith. We are the same. We walk through life with moments of great faith, feeling as though we can face any challenge. But then, the strong winds of life hit. Illness, financial struggles, loss, unexpected hardships. And if we take our eyes off Jesus, if we allow doubt to take the place of faith, we will begin to sink, just as Peter did. But what is the most important lesson from this story? That even when Peter doubted, even when he was sinking, Jesus was still there to lift him up. That is the difference between faith in God and confidence in ourselves. When we place our trust in ourselves, in the fleeting things of this world, we may fail. But when we place our trust in God, even in our weakness, even in our mistakes, He will still be there, reaching out His hand to pull us up. Fear is one of the strongest weapons the enemy uses to throw us off course. It whispers in our ears that we are not strong enough, that the challenges ahead are too great, that we cannot overcome them. But if we allow fear to control us, we will remain forever trapped in the boat of doubt, never daring to step out and experience the miracles God has prepared for us. Faith is not the absence of fear. It is refusing to let fear take control. Faith is knowing that no matter how dark the path ahead may be, no matter how fierce the storm may rage, God is standing there, waiting for us to step out of the boat and walk toward Him. And if we dare to walk in faith, if we dare to believe that God will hold us up on the water, then no storm will be able to pull us under. The mysterious clock in that small village could only function when there was absolute trust. In the same way, our lives can only run to their fullest when they are built on faith in God. Fear may cause us to pause, but faith will take us further than we ever imagined. And if there is one certainty in this life, it is this: no matter if the clock of this world stops ticking, no matter if everything crumbles, God remains, steady, unshaken, and always ready to lift us up from the waves of life. Chapter 5, When the Echo Answers. There was a small town nestled between rolling hills covered in ancient oak trees, where winding cobblestone paths led to an old well that the townspeople believed to be magical. No one knew exactly how long it had existed. Some said it was dug by the first nomads who set foot on this land, while others swore it had been there since the days of ancient kingdoms. But regardless of its origins, everyone in town agreed on one thing: the well was more than just a place to draw water. Children would often stand at the well's edge, clutching a shiny coin tightly in their hands. They would close their eyes, whisper their wishes, and drop the coin into the deep, dark abyss. If they truly believed, if their hearts held not a trace of doubt, They would hear an echo rising from the depths below, a soft whisper, almost like an answer from the soul that stood there centuries before. But the well itself was not what mattered. It was not the carefully stacked stones or the moss-covered rim that made it special. What mattered was the faith people placed in it. Prayer is the same way. Prayer is not magic. It is not a spell to be recited to make every desire come true. It is not a golden ticket that exempts us from all hardship in life. Prayer, like the echo of the ancient well, is how we connect with God. Not to change our circumstances instantly, but to change ourselves. Like the child at the well, we come before God in prayer, bringing our wishes, our hopes, and sometimes even our pain. We cast our most sincere whispers into the depths of faith, longing for an answer. But the miracle is not in whether our prayers are answered immediately. The true miracle is that, in the process of praying, we discover something far greater than any wish: peace. There is a famous story in the Bible about a man who prayed 3 times for God to take away a thorn in his flesh, something that caused him pain, a burden he could not remove on his own. But God did not take the thorn away. Instead, he told him, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." 2 Corinthians 12:9. This seems contradictory. Why wouldn't God simply remove the source of suffering? Why not perform a miracle and take it away? But then we realize that sometimes God's answer is not to remove the hardship, but to give us the strength to endure it. We often come to God with a list of our desires, like a child writing a letter to Santa Claus. But through prayer, we learn something far more important. Prayer is not about changing God's will to fit ours. It is about changing our hearts to align with His. Prayer does not mean we will always get what we want. It means we will always receive what we need. And when we truly pray, not just with our lips, but with our hearts and souls, we will witness a quiet miracle. Even when the answer has not yet come, even when our circumstances remain unchanged, our hearts will be filled with peace. Peace is not the absence of storms. It is not a life untouched by struggle. Peace is knowing that, even in the midst of the storm, there is a mighty hand holding on to us. Just like the child who hears the echo from the depths of the well, when we pray with true faith, we too will hear a whisper from the deepest parts of our souls, a gentle reminder that we are never alone, that no matter how the world changes, God remains, always listening. Chapter 6. God protects the faithful. Darkness envelops everything. Not the gentle darkness of a peaceful night, but a thick, suffocating void that cloaks the world like a cold, heavy shroud. The labored breathing of predators echoes in the silence, low growls slicing through the air like invisible daggers. Their eyes burn like sinister rubies, gleaming in the pitch-black abyss. The lions, the undisputed rulers of the wild, are on the prowl, stalking their prey. You stand there, frozen. Every sense is heightened. Fear rises like crashing waves, flooding your mind, whispering that you have reached the end of hope. You have 2 choices. Flee, though you know no one outruns these beasts, or stand firm and place your trust in something greater than yourself. Once, long ago, Daniel faced this very choice, but he did not choose fear. He chose faith. The story of Daniel is not merely a tale of miracles or luck. It is a story of unwavering faithfulness. When he was cast into the lion's den, Daniel did not tremble, did not panic, did not plead for mercy from men. He prayed to God, and God was with him. The lions, which should have torn him apart the moment he touched the ground, remained still, as if an invisible hand had restrained them. Death, seemingly only a breath away, became powerless in the presence of the Almighty. But what kept Daniel safe? It was not physical strength, not cunning or strategy, but absolute trust in God. His faith was not something easily swayed by circumstances. It was a fortress, a refuge in the storm. In life, we too often find ourselves in our own lion's dens. Sometimes they take the form of insurmountable trials, days of hardship, losses that cut deep, pressures that weigh so heavily upon us that we can barely breathe. There are moments when we feel as though we are drowning in doubt and fear, convinced that there is no way out. But remember Daniel. Remember that God did not abandon him in the lion's den, and he will not abandon us in the trials of life. Perhaps we do not see him. Perhaps the darkness around us makes us question his presence. But faith is seeing the light even when our eyes perceive only night. Faith is knowing that God is fighting for us even when we cannot feel it. So when you face adversity, what will you choose? Will you run or will you stand firm? Remember, Daniel had no guarantee that God would shut the lions' mouths. He only knew that God was with him, and that was all he needed to stand firm among the beasts. What about you? Conclusion: the door has opened. Think back to that door, the one you once stood before, hesitating, doubting, unsure of what lay on the other side. It had been a barrier, a symbol of limitation, of all that seemed out of reach, of the things you had always longed for but never found the courage to grasp. But what if today, right now, you found the strength to push it open? What if, instead of standing still in uncertainty, you placed your hand on the handle and used the full force of your faith to turn it? The door would creak, slowly, reluctantly, then begin to open, revealing a new horizon. Light pours in, not the harsh blaze of the midday sun, but a gentle, warm radiance that wraps around you like the protective embrace of a loving father. The wind rushes through, carrying the scent of freedom, of hope, of a life no longer bound by fear. Before you lies a world beyond imagination, a vast, luminous place where fulfillment is not found in mere possessions or fleeting successes, but in something far greater. The blessings here are not gifts to be received, not wealth or recognition, but the very presence of the one who created all things. And then you realize something profound. You are no longer searching for blessings, because now you understand that the greatest blessing is not in what you receive, but in the one who gives. This is the difference between the one who is still wandering and the one who has found the way. One chases after what they believe to be important: money, fame, success, or even unfulfilled dreams. They move from door to door, knocking, waiting, hoping that something good will finally open up. But they forget one simple truth. Everything they have been searching for has always been in the one place they never thought to look: in the presence of God. God never promised that the path would be easy. He never said there would be no trials, no storms, but he did promise this: if you walk with him, you will never be lost. So do not chase after blessings. Do not wait at different doors, hoping that happiness lies beyond them. Chase after God. And when you do, you will look back and realize the door was never what held you back. It was never locked. It was only waiting for you to have enough faith to push it open.